Manga-Waido.
My name is Koji Honda. I'm a sophomore at Waido High School and a member of the judo club. I've been doing judo since junior high school, and the reason I started to train myself physically and mentally was because I was weak. In junior high school, I was able to join the club under a good advisor who gave me proper guidance, but... What the hell are you doing, you piece of shit?! The one wielding the bamboo sword and spouting off a lot of abuse is the judo club's advisor, Muranushi. Freshman! I can't hear you! Your robe is a mess! A monkey can wear it better than you! He routinely raises his voice over trivial matters and beats club members mercilessly with the bamboo sword he carries with him at all times. Although there are windows in the martial arts gym, it's hard to see from the outside because it's far away from the school building. In addition, the vice advisor, Ino-sensei, is a quiet female teacher. Taking advantage of this closed space, Muranushi does whatever he wants. Judo is a martial art! If you don't want to do it, quit! When you get to it, you get hit less and less. But when I was still a freshman, I used to get hit with the bamboo sword and go home with bruises. Ouch!
Koji, you have a terrible scar on your back.
My advisor is very strict, but I'm okay.
Strict? Isn't that physical punishment?
Physical punishment? I guess. When I had just joined the judo club, my mother, who was worried about my bruises, asked the advisor about it. At the time, Muranushi answered the phone and said, "I apologize. I got carried away with my instruction. From now on, I will change my attitude towards teaching and make every effort to prevent such an incident from happening again. I will report this matter to my superiors and ask for appropriate guidance." Surprisingly, he acknowledged the physical punishment and apologized. That easily? But I'm glad to hear that. But my faint hopes were soon shattered. The next day, one of you idiots called my instruction physical punishment! You're all taking responsibility! Everybody do 100 laps around the school grounds! Don't drink any water! The situation got worse. On a later day, during dinner, my mother came to me with a worried look on her face.
How's club activities? If the physical punishment is still going on, I'll go directly to the school this time instead of a call.
Oh no. If my mother moves again, I don't know what he'll do next. Thinking this, I said, "It's okay. Bruises can be caused just by playing against bigger, older guys."
But...
I'm serious. It's fine.
If you say so, but if anything happens, tell me right away.
Yeah, thanks. At this rate, I played it off in front of my mother and continued with my club activities. My advisor's the worst, but my friends and seniors are good guys. Above all, I love judo. I'm sorry for worrying my mom, but this is the only way to stay in the judo club. Days of endurance continued. Time went by, and now, in the spring, new members joined the club, and I became a senior member. They're important club members who came all the way here. As a senior, I have to protect them. Then one day, an incident occurred. The atmosphere in the club was more tense than usual, with the important district tournament just around the corner. Stop practicing like a fool! You want to get your ass kicked? Maybe because the result of last week's practice game was no good, Muranushi was in a bad mood. His brutal words stood out, and he hit harder than usual. But to be honest, one of the main reasons for the club's lack of strength was the small number of members. It doesn't have much of an effect on individual competitions, but it's easy to be at a disadvantage in team competitions if you have a small number of members. Everyone got fed up with Muranushi's coaching and quit, and the club couldn't gather enough members. I think we're doing well with this small number of members, though. During practice, it was when a first-year student, a beginner in judo, was getting tired from not being able to keep up with the practice. Excuse me, can I go drink some water?
Yeah, go ahead. You don't look so good. Are you okay?
It was a hot day, and the news said it was midsummer. It was a steamy day in the martial arts gym, with no air conditioning. It was an environment that could lead to heat stroke. Hey! Who said you could take a break?
But Muranushi-sensei...
They'll never be good because they rest so easily! The tournament is coming up! Don't be so easy on them! I'm sorry. He went to go back to practice, walking unsteadily. I couldn't just stand there and watch. Muranushi-sensei, please, let him take a break. What? Practice is important, of course, but I think it's too late if he collapses. The temperature is very high today. This doesn't count as hot. You just want to talk back to me, don't you? Sensei, you're wearing a light tank top, and we're wearing thicker judo clothes. There's a difference in body heat, isn't there? Huh? You're talking back now? Honda? Yes? Don't you dare stand in my way, you little brat! Ugh! He violently threw me, and a dull thud echoed.
Honda!
Ugh. I tried to stand up, but I couldn't keep my balance. It wasn't a judo move, more like I was slammed against the wall with a lot of force. I thought that I passed out, and when I woke up, I was in the hospital. My mother arrived about the time I finished my examinations.
Koji, I was so worried.
Oh, sorry. I think I hit my head and got a concussion. It looks like I'm going to be okay for now. He said I'll be able to go home after a little more rest.
I'm glad you're okay. Can you explain what happened?
I told her exactly what happened at club activities today. After talking,
I won't let him get away with it.
the next day, I was absent from school on doctor's orders when the doorbell rang. When my mother answered, it was Muranushi. I'm sorry that my lack of supervision caused your son's injury. He seems to be here to apologize. I moved to a position where I could hear their voices.
Lack of supervision, huh? I heard from my son that he was injured by the advisor, Murasama himself.
That's not true! Yesterday, everyone was practicing with a lazy attitude. Your son was one of them. I told him to practice harder, but he wasn't convinced. So I gave him the judo technique as a sign of love. And then he hit his head on the ground by accident. That's all I can say. Listen to this guy. So you're not at fault at all?
Judo technique, is it? So what is it that you want to say, Sensei?
So? This series of things is part of our instruction. Since there's an important tournament coming up, I would like to ask you to refrain from reporting this to the school. I will report to the higher-ups as soon as I see fit.
I'm sorry to hear that. I've already reported the damage to the police.
What? The police? Yes, it was actually reported to the police yesterday and filed as a damage report. But it was my mother who reported it. I just had to fill out the paperwork, as I was told. Isn't it too much to go to the police? I mean, I'm all right now.
You know, you have to remember, the school is not an extraterritorial authority. What happens at school doesn't have to be solved in school. This is a crime. That's why we have to report it.
Your mother's right. Well then, we will accept the damage report and the medical report of the injury here. We'll contact you shortly to discuss the situation. You can reach us at...
And by the way, I've already reported this to the school board because I don't want him on the faculty while we're waiting for the police to respond.
But, as I said before, I didn't hit your son this time! I just threw him on his back as an instructional measure! The injury was just bad luck!
You just threw him away with force. Judo is based on suspension and tension. You are an instructor. What are you doing if you can't apply techniques so that your students can break the fall?
Well,
I myself am an experienced judo player. Even without hearing my son's story, it's obvious from the way he was injured that it was physical punishment.
What? I didn't know. I'd asked my mother about her sports experience before, but she's always insisted that she'd never done anything before.
Also, you said earlier that you would report back to the higher-ups, but do you remember saying the same thing about a year ago?
A year ago?
When my son was still a freshman, he had a bruise, so I called Murasama-san because I was suspicious. It was obvious that he had a bruise that couldn't have been caused by judo. You made a bunch of excuses and then explained, I'll report it to the higher-ups.
That's...
My son told me to keep quiet about it, but when I checked with the school anonymously at the time, I was told that no such report had been filed. This is a cover-up of physical punishment.
I didn't mean to cover it up! Muranushi fell silent. I guess he couldn't come up with any other excuses after my mother's argument.
I understand enough now. This case is a crime of injury. I cannot entrust a person like you with the guidance of children who have a future. I have nothing further to say to you, so please leave.
Please, don't report the damage! Please withdraw the report! Spitting out a pathetic voice that one could not imagine at school, Muranushi got down on his knees. The pathetic sight of his head against the floor will be unforgettable for a while. And from that day on, Muranushi could no longer come to school. Later, with the testimony of club members and Ino-sensei, Muranushi was found guilty of inflicting injury and fired. The school board did not get off scot-free either. As expected, there had been reports of physical punishment in the past, and he had received several warnings and other punishments. With the discourse of the cover-up of the physical punishment a year ago, he was suspended from work and placed under house arrest. However, the case was picked up by the news and became quite serious. As a result, Muranushi was forced to voluntarily resign. Meanwhile, I'm back from my injury, practicing hard, and we won the district tournament. We've been selected to participate in the prefectural tournament. Alright! Let's win the prefectural tournament! Yes! Muranushi was replaced by a new advisor, and the club became more energetic than before. Looking back now, it was not too much to report the damage. I'm truly grateful to my mother. Speaking of which, why didn't you tell me you've done judo before?
What? It's kind of embarrassing if you thought it didn't suit me.
I don't think so. But your ears didn't turn into dumplings. In judo, the ears rub against the tatami during ground moves and become deformed like dumplings. My mother didn't have that.
I'm not very good with tickles. The only thing I'm not good at is ground moves.
They say mothers are strong. I'm really no match for her. I feel like I'll never be able to compete with you, Mom.